Okay, we're going to look at creating methods in Java. So I have a program that I'm going to introduce you to that I've put together for this purpose. And first of all, if we look at the program, it's called Class Java Methods. I have two different lines where I'm declaring variables, and those are just going to be global to everything. And then one method, method main, and it is very long. It has all of these things in it, as you can see, a whole lot of stuff, and down at the end it's end of main method, end of the class. The whole class is just the main method. This is not object oriented, by the way. I'm not making use of any object oriented properties of Java here at all. So first of all, what are we going to use our methods for? We are going to organize our code and make it a little bit more readable and understandable and chunk it. So there are comments here in the main method that right now show you where the different sections are. So there's an input section, there is a find the youngest person section, there's a sort the names alphabetically section, which is very long, and at the end, print out the names with ages once sorted section. We're going to put each of those sections into its very own method, starting with the first one, input several names and ages. So I'm going to just grab this section and cut it, and I'm going to put it up above the main method signature. So that would be in this space up here. So paste. So now I've taken that section right out of main, and it's going to become its own method. So input several names with ages. What would be a good name? Let's see. So public, because it's not object oriented, everything will be static. So public static void, and how about input? It begins here and it ends here. So beginning and ending. I'm going to press F2. That gives me my nice indenting so I can see that this is at the same level as main. Now, do I need to provide any input for this method to execute? No, I've put global variables up here, so there's actually no input that I need. But I do want to do this section of code, and right now, as you should know, when you run a Java program, it always starts with the main method. So if I compile this and I try to run it, I get null, 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 0, 0, 0, 0. The youngest person 0 years old, and it didn't ask me to type anybody's name or age in. And that's what the first thing this program should do, is ask me for input. It's not doing that. I need to invoke this method. So I'm going to copy this, the name with the brackets, and I want to invoke the method right at this point. So I'm going to put it here. Again, I'm going to make sure everything is indented nicely. If I compile it again, you'll see the difference. I run it, and now it's asking me for input. Type in name 1. How old is Jeff? Type in name 2. How old is Mary? Type in name 3. How old is Sue? Type in name 4. How old is Terry? And type in name 5. How old is Bill? And then the other methods are executed here. So that was our input section from our method, and it says the youngest person is 2, and it prints out the names, and look, they're miraculously sorted by age. Alright. Looking back at our program, we now see the main method has one line of code that says input. Now it's got a chunk here, a chunk down there, and a chunk down there as it had before. So let's take the second chunk out. So this says find the youngest person. And if we want to replace that with one line, how about find youngest? So first input, then find youngest. So I'm going to follow the same logic I had last time, go above main. I'm not going into the input. I'm staying out of main. I'm just going to copy the lines right here. Find the youngest person. We decided that should be called find youngest, so here's the beginning of it. Here's the end of it. Let's indent things nicely and see how this works. I have an error. Invalid method declaration. Public static find. Oh, what's missing? Public static, it's missing the return type. Now if I say I don't want to return anything and leave this line of code in here for the youngest person, that would work just fine. But what if later on I want to know what the youngest person's age is, and I want actually that value given back to me? I might want to have the youngest person in main for some reason. So I could put void here, and it should compile this time. And if I'm going to put some garbage data in here because it takes too long just to excuse me. Oh, type mismatch. Garbage data sometimes isn't a good idea because I get letters in there when I'm supposed to have a number. Okay, let's run it again and I'll put real data in. Mary, Joe, Sudhir, Timothy, Jack. Okay, now it tells me the youngest person is indeed 9 years old, and everything's sorted nicely. Okay, so let's change void to I want the youngest person's age given back to me, which is an int. So here, now, I'm going to invoke the method differently because I'm going to be given information back. So I want to store that integer value. So I want an integer value to store that youngest age. But unless I actually return that value, I'm not going to get anything back. So once I've figured out the youngest from my if statement, I'm going to return youngest. This line of code I can either execute before that return statement or I can execute in main. And I'm going to just take it down to main at this point. And instead of youngest, I'm going to have to use youngest age because youngest is a variable that was declared in the method find youngest. Once I'm done find youngest, it's gone. So this will have to take on the name of the variable that I'm using in this method for storing the youngest age. So what did I do? I moved all the lines of code into its own method. I decided to return an integer value back. I'm storing that integer value when it's given back to me, and I'm using it. Will it compile? Let's hope so. There it goes. Okay, so it will compile. I'm not going to prove to you that it'll run just yet. We'll do it in a minute. Because look at this long piece of code here, this section, which sorts the names alphabetically. Let's see if we can take this out. And, whoops, I just didn't hit. I thought I can hit Control X, but I hit Control Z. So let's try this again. Control X. Okay, that worked better. Okay, so we're going to move that above main again. Paste it in here. So this is sorting the names alphabetically. So let's say I'll remember my return type this time. Not going to get anything back. Don't need any input. Way down here is the end. I'm adding lots of brackets down here, so I'm going to say end of method sort alphabetical. Okay, so hopefully if I press my F2 button, I haven't got my brackets messed up, and that looked pretty good. Okay, just to make sure I get this name right, I'm going to copy, and at this point down here, I'm going to be doing my sorting. Okay, so what's this look like now? It says input, then find youngest, and printing out who the youngest person is. Then it says sort alphabetical. Will it compile? What's it say here? Oh, I need an E at the end. Let's try that again. Alright, it compiles, and let's try it this time. Alright, what does it give us for output? The input was done in its own method, the age was passed to us from a second method, and in main we're still printing things out, and it was sorted in order from youngest to oldest, which was sorted in its own method. Okay, so the only thing that's left in main is the section where we're printing out all the names. So I'm going to take that section, put it above main, paste it in. The reason I take out my comment is because the name of the method should give us an indication of what's being done in this section. So it is replacing my comment. So for this method, I'm printing out my names. So I'm going to call it I have an input method, I might as well have an output method. So there we go. Open brace and brace. Let's see, all the brackets line up, and output. Now when we look at main, we have a pretty good idea of what's going on in this program. Where we have an input section, we have a find youngest section. Notice I'm looking for the open and close brackets, the round brackets, to find out what methods are being called. So input, find youngest, print, sort alphabetical, and output. Does it compile? Yes, it does. Does it run? It seems to run. It's, Jennifer is a long name, so the tab took this out here. So that is because the R took us past the tab line of the others. So my formatting isn't perfect, but the operation is still the same in the program. Alright, so if we look, we now have things chunked by methods, and if something goes wrong in each of the methods, we know exactly where to go to fix it. For instance, the output method, I could check the length of the names as they come in, and from then determine how many tabs I need when I'm printing it out. So that would be a way to fix my formatting error. So that's basically how to take different sections in main and move them into their own methods. One of them had a return value, so we have an equal sign in order to store that return value coming back. The others, they didn't even have any input because I decided to use global variables rather than feeding the values in to the different methods as input. Okay, so that's the basics of method making.